Hi, this is Research Academy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'd like us to look at an important topic because a lot of people have asked this question: what is a regression and when do you apply it in your research? In my own opinion, I look at a regression as a reliable method of identifying the variables in your research that impact other variables. For example, if you have a variable A and another variable B or X and Y, if you are interested in identifying how X impacts Y or how X might affect Y, you may consider using a regression analysis. For example, if you aim to predict or estimate the effect of your independent variable on dependent variable, you may consider running a regression. And so, moving on to the next slide, now that we've gotten an idea, a typical idea of what a regression is and why we have to use it, which is to enable us make clearer prediction to know the relationship between variable A and variable B. So this will bring us to the types of regression to consider in social sciences and educational research. I will tell you why I have to limit this to social sciences and educational research, because in these particular fields of studies, we are interested in understanding relationships between a variable and another one. So you can see here, you can see the under linear regression, we are interested in having a particular effect from the independent variable X and dependent variable Y. And under multiple linear regression, you have multiple independent variables. We have X, X1, X2, X3, and then we have just one dependent variable. So if we go to SPSS, if we go to SPSS, you can see that if you have keyed in your data, the data set, which I have already, this is just a fictitious data that I have just imputed here, and I want to use it to show you how you can analyze a linear regression, for example. Then I can come to analyze regression, linear. So if this becomes my, for example, if I want this to be the dependent variable, for example, dependent variable, and I want probably this, you can see if I want this to be the independent variable only, I can just, that is where you are interested in a linear regression with one independent variable and one dependent variable. So you can simply use this to run your analysis, and maybe you can check any of the statistics. You want the R square value, the change in R square, and then you want descriptive or collinearity diagnostics, or whatever, confidence in, if you want whatever you want, you can simply check, and then when you're done, you click OK. If you have multiple independent variables, you can simply add them here. You can simply add them here, and then you check whatever you want. Now, if you are interested in hierarchical regression, for example, you might simply want to, first of all, like I have age and gender, I had decided to impute them first, and then I go to the next, and I impute maybe this 2 to be my dependent variable, the independent variable, excuse me. And then I say next, impute them. I said next, and I can impute maybe this one, and I said next. So when I finish imputing the variables I want, maybe this one, and then I can come to the options, and then I can select whatever I want. I can come to the statistics and select the ones I like to the SPSS to produce for me, and then when I'm done, I will click continue, and then I will click OK, and then it will produce the results for me. So this is basically how you can run linear regression or multiple linear regression. So multiple linear regression in the sense that you have multiple independent variable. Let me take you back to this place again. So you can see dependent variable. You can only put one dependent variable here, and you can add as many independent variables as you have, like you can see there, and then you can select the statistics you want, and then you can go on to run the analysis. So here you can see that we have multiple independent variables. That is why you have x1, x2, x3, leading to trying to show their direct relationships, their effects on the dependent variable, one dependent variable. Okay, if we want to look at another type of regression, which is multivariate regression analysis. In this particular case, the multivariate analysis can be considered when the research model contains more than one independent variable x and more than one dependent variable y. So if you have multiple independent variables like x1, x2, and then you have dependent y1, 2, and then y3, and you are particularly interested in knowing the relationship between the independent variable and then the dependent variable, you can simply consider multivariate regression analysis. If you open the SPSS, you can simply go to Analyze, go to General Linear Model, and you open Multivariate. So you can see here, you have dependent variables. So it can allow you to impute more than one dependent variable here, and then you can see, you can add your independent variable, and if you have more than one, you can allow you then your control variable covariates, you can also add them here, and then you select the particular kind of analysis you may want, you may be interested in. If you want to check homogeneity tests, you can check these. If you want residue plot, whatever you want, you can check these out, and then click. When you are done, you click OK. For example, you can see this. Let's say I put this, and then say, for example, I select this. Okay, and then when I'm done selecting this, I can actually run the particular analysis. So this is just to show you. I don't actually intend to run the analysis in this particular tutorial. There's another form of regression analysis which comprises 3 sets of regression, and that is the mediation analysis. In this particular case, you can see it's a set of regression where the researcher is interested in knowing the effect of X on Y, effect of X on the M, which is the mediator, and then X plus M to Y. So I tried to demonstrate it in this particular model, and then I'm trying to show here that the independent variable X can take you to, we want to see the effects of the independent variable X on the mediator 1 here. This is a multiple mediator variables that I have. So I have M1, M2, and then we want to see the effects on the dependent variable. So you may consider mediation analysis when you want to see an indirect effect, because this particular line here shows the direct effect between the independent variable to the dependent variable. This particular line, that is X on Y, that is this particular description here. So, and then you can see, according to Baron and Kenny, they explain that for you to actually have an indirect effect of X on Y to the mediator 1 and mediator 2, that the independent variable must predict the mediator variable, mediator 1 and mediator 2, and that the mediating variables will have to predict the dependent variable for you to actually have a statistically significant indirect effect. So what you actually want to learn in this particular case is that you want to see, even though that the independent variable X may be causing Y, you want to see whether that is also an underlying mechanism via which X may impact on Y. Okay, so in this particular case, you want to see the indirect effect via the mediator variables 1 and 2. So in SPSS, you might want to run this particular analysis by going to Analyze. You go to Regression. If you are interested in running mediation analysis, now you can use the process macro, which has been developed by Andrew Hayes. So here, you can just put for example, if this is my dependent variable Y and the independent variable X. For example, if I have two mediating variables, for example, okay, so I will simply come here, select model 4, and if I have control variables, for example, age, for example, gender, I can put them here, and then I'll go to options, and I can select to show total effect, show this. I can also select this, and then I love to limit this to 3, and I will say okay. Now, if you have long variables name, like if the variables you title them with, in words less than 8 letters, so you may want to select this particular place, okay, and then you click OK, and then you click here, and then it runs and will produce the result for you. Okay, for example, if I do that, it's going to produce for example, so it will take a little while, and it will produce the result of the mediation analysis for me. Okay, if you have whether 3, you can still do that, but there is a particular problem, a challenge with using process macro to test mediation analysis. Supposing you have 2 independent variables here, or supposing you have 2 dependent variables here, you might need to how would you might need to consider in using the Andrew Hayes KX1 or KX1 pattern. If you check Andrew Hayes' book, you'll be able to see that. And here, what it means is that you first of all put one independent variable and a dependent variable, because process macro cannot accept two independent variables or two dependent variables at the same time in a particular study. So but it can take multiple mediating variables or mediator variables. And so in that particular case, what you might do is you may want to impute one just as I demonstrated before now, and then when you are done testing, then you can add the other independent variable and then the dependent variable, as the case may be. Another important form of regression is the modulation analysis. The modulation analysis in this particular case can be considered when the researcher is interested in learning the relationship between two or more variables that depend on another variable. For example, I have demonstrated in this particular case, you can see that this particular variable here will transmit its effects on the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. So in this case, the researcher is interested in knowing whether the effect of the independent variable X on Y is conditional or dependent on the effect of the moderator W. Okay, so in this type of analysis, you may want to use linear regression or hierarchical regression analysis. Best hierarchical regression analysis can help you to run this particular analysis in SPSS, or you can use the Andrew Hayes process macro to run this analysis. For example, I'll show you in SPSS how you can test this particular analysis. In SPSS, if you are interested in testing modulation analysis, you can decide to use the hierarchical regression, where you can put the dependent variable, or for example, you can first of all, of course, with hierarchical regression, the first thing is when you put the dependent variable, then you go on to insert the control variables first to learn how they affect the dependent variable. Then next, you insert the independent variable, supposing there are two. You insert, then you insert, supposing hope is my mediator variable, moderating variable. Then what I might do is, because in the modulation analysis, you want to learn the interaction between the independent variable and the moderating variable. So in that particular case, you might need to go to compute variable. Then you can, for example, I can say interaction, then I can say if optimism is my independent variable and my moderator variable is hope, I can say this multiplied by this, I'll put it, and then I will say, okay, once I do that, you will see another variable will be produced, another result will be produced, and then you can see here, can see here, another variable has been produced, interaction. So you can come back to the hierarchical regression analysis, and then, for example, I put this, and then I put this, and I say next. I'll say optimism, and then I'll say, which is my independent variable. Then I will impute, for example, the interaction effect of hope and, oh, excuse me. Then I can compute hope, and I can impute the interaction effect, and then select the particular analysis that I want, and then after that I'll click OK, as the case may be. And so if you don't want to take this particular process, then you can use the process macro. In this particular case, I will remove the mediators, and I will still have this example. I can say, okay, let hope come to this particular place as the moderator variable. Then I will select model 1. Okay, and so when I select model 1 and check, and maybe I'm interested in knowing covariance matrix of regression if I want, or I want to show the visualization code so I can go on to plot them. I may want to test the test of X by M interactions. If I want whatever I want, then when I'm done, I will simply check. Then I'll put this on -1 standard deviation, the mean, and then +1 standard deviation, and then I will click OK. And then when I click OK here, the process macro will automatically produce the result for me. So that will lead me to the next form of regression analysis, which is a moderated mediation analysis. So in moderated mediation analysis, you are interested in learning whether the indirect effect of X or Y is conditional on the value of the moderator variable. So you can see in this particular diagram here, this particular model, which I have put up before this recording. So you can see that I have used the previous this particular model, and I've just added a moderator variable here. And please note that this particular model, if I want, I can still move this model here if I am interested in knowing the effect from this angle, from the mediating angle, mediator variable angle. For example here, and then for example something like this. So please note that you can also run this particular analysis. This is if you want to use process macro, you may want to select model 14 or model 15. I think if I remove this, that will give me model 14 or thereabout. So but this is not what I want. So so in this particular case, all you need to do is you go to process macro and then select the appropriate model and then conduct your analysis. So in SPSS, I can go back to process macro and then impute the control variables here. For example, I can select this to be the dependent variable, independent variable, and then mediator variable 1, for example 2, and then this can actually be the moderator variable, okay? And I can go on to select model 8 because I would like to know the interaction effect on the mediators, the both mediating variable, and then the interaction of the moderator and the independent variable on the dependent variable. So when you select the appropriate, you go to and then you may want to see the visualization code for the interaction effect. Then you may also want to see this, and then remember you can always put this to 3 and then select this to learn the interaction effects on the dependent variable or the mediating variables, or whichever variable you want to learn the interaction effects on. Then you can always select below the mean, at the mean, and then above the mean. And then when you are done with it, then you can always click OK to run the analysis. Remember to always check this particular place if your variable name exceeds 8 letters. So that is how you can use the process macro to run this particular analysis. You can also use hierarchical regression. A lot of people have used hierarchical regression to run the analysis, but since Andrew Hayes has already brought out, Andrew Hayes has already produced the process macro, so it makes it easier for researchers to run moderated mediation analysis using the application. So you might not need to worry going through the rigorous of adding nests and then nest and then nest and then probably, so you simply use the process macro to run this analysis, and then that will produce a very beautiful result for you. The model we may want to look at is the structural equation modeling. At what point do we use structural equation modeling, and why do we need to use structural equation modeling? For example, if you have a complex model, you want to learn the relationship between observed and latent variable, for example, or you have complex variable model like the one displayed here, you may want to use the structural equation modeling to learn the effect. So in this particular case, what you might do is, for example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 variables. So this is very complex. So one beautiful thing about structural equation modeling is that it enables you to test or analyze a lot of variables, a model with multiple variables. So which the SPSS might not be able to allow you to do, or which normal regression or linear regression. So one good thing about using the structural equation modeling analysis is that it will enable you to carefully analyze all the variables in your research or in your model simultaneously. So, and then at the same time, paying attention or accounting for measurement errors. So this is very, very important. So this is one thing that you may want to consider when you have complex models like this. So here, this is actually a moderated mediation model with one independent variable, 3 dependent variables, for example. So this is just a fictitious model, and it has not been tested. Actually, this is just to show what you can do. So these are the dependent variables. So here, I simply decompose subjective occupational aspirations. I just decomposed it into the various factors. So if you want to run this kind of analysis, and then you want to see how a variable, a modulator variable, strengthens the effect of the independent variable x on the mediating variables, leading to improving each of these dependent variables. You may want to consider running a structural equation modeling. For example, this line here, they could have been. I just wanted to make the table to be very clean. So, of course, something like this. It could be something like this. Normally, this line is supposed to come here, and then this one comes here. You know, something like this. So, but just to make sure the diagram is not too mixed up, I just decided to put up this particular line here to show that this effect goes to this, and this. And then the same thing here, you can see that I can also decide to put this line here. Normally, I'm supposed to show this effect, the relationship here. I'm supposed to show to this particular one. I'm supposed to show to all of them, and you know, to these, and to these, and each of these will go to all of them, and this the same thing. But you can see to really make the model so complex. And then, so because of this, I just allowed the model to look exactly like this. But if you want to test this particular analysis, run this particular model, you may want to consider using the structural equation modeling in Amos. For example, if I go to Amos, all I need to do is to draw the parts. Okay, let me show you how you may want to run complex models. So this is 5 dependent variables, 3 mediating variables, 1 independent variable, and the moderator. Okay, that's fine. This is an Amos interface. Amos software, if you have the app, the application installed in your personal computer, so you can use it to run complex analysis. For example, you can see this. This particular kind of analysis that I actually did. It has a lot of variables, control variables, 1 dependent variable, 3 mediating variables, and 5 independent variables. For example, let me go to New, then I go to View. Okay. For example, if I have this, just want to make it look a little bit smaller. Then I can duplicate this. So we have this, we have 2, the third one, and the other one is about 5, thereabouts. 3, okay. And then there's an interaction effect. So likely to have an interaction effect here. So in this particular case, what I might want to do, I'll start drawing the parts, the relationships. Okay, this is exactly what we have there. What we have. Okay, so this is 1, And then remember that this is the interaction effect between the control the moderating effect and the independent variables. So we will still have to also, because we are interested in learning how it will interact with the independent variable to improve the mediating variable. So we move the effect here, and move the effect here, move the effect here. Okay, so remember that this particular one, that's a direct relationship, so it's going to be a little bit messy. So put it down here and here. So this is a very complex model. Okay. So, and then we're going to put relationship between this and this. Yeah, can actually make it a little bit good. So that's exactly what we have. And then for the error terms, and then we name the variable the error terms, okay? And then we insert the variables, the particular variables. We can now go on to, if you click here, it will take you to your computer, then you select the file name, and then the variables will come in here, and then from here, they will load in this particular place, and then from here you can begin to now drop them. Okay, so you can now begin to now drop the variables and then take the analysis from here. Running the analysis is actually not what we are discussing tonight, but I just wanted to show you that it is actually possible to run such analysis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's actually possible to run such analysis. Okay. So another thing you can actually do with structural equation modeling is if you want to test multi-group, for example, in this particular model. So this is a multi-group analysis. For example, I can decide to have, if I want to learn the effect of gender on in this model, for example, or that I want to test two groups. Let's say I want to test the groups of the two groups. I want to learn the effect of the independent variable. I want to learn the effect of the independent variable here on the dependent variable 1 and 2, mediated by mediator 1, mediator 2, and I want to learn in all these relationships here. I want to learn how this group, particular group, for example, I can say multi-group, I can say high support and low, high and low support. Example, I can say two groups, high and low support, for example. So I want to see in this particular model, I want to see if you perceive higher support, how does it impact the relationship between this and this? Or those who perceive higher support, maybe from their teachers, from their parents, or from significant other, or from whatever place, how will it impact on each of the relationships? Now, you may want to consider it's a kind of comparison study. We want to compare between the effect on each of these models, the effects in this model. We want to compare it between those who perceive higher and those who perceive low support. So you may want to use multi-group. If you want to do a multi-group analysis, so you can also use the structural equation modeling to test that. Another thing you may want to consider, for example, is if you want to run a time lag study where you want to know the effect of the independent variable to the dependent variable at time 1, time 2, time 3. So in this particular case, you can look at the model here. We tested faculty-based supervisor supports. These are forms of support, 3 forms of supports on students undertaking work placement learning. We tested these 3 forms of support on career decision self-efficacy and self-esteem at time 2. And then we want to see how how these 2 mediators indirectly enhanced or impacted or influenced the effect of these 3 forms of support on students' career certainty at time 3. So if you want to do this particular study, you might not be able to run this analysis using SPSS, because if you look at this model, you can see that the dotted lines here are control variables. We use them to control, for example, faculty support, supervisor support, base supervisor support at time 2 and at time 3. So in this particular case, time 1 is the actual independent variable, and we controlled for time 3. Here, parental support at time 1 is the actual independent variable. We control for parental 2 and 3. So the dotted line shows you that they are not actually main variables. They're not the relationships that we are interested in this particular study, but we use them to control. And then this analysis, this whole model, in this particular case, we are tested simultaneously using structural equation modeling in Amos. So that is one of the beauties of using structural equation modeling if you want to run complex models like this. So and I'd like to show you this particular model. I'd like to show you where it was published. It was published recently in Journal of Career Assessment, and the title is Understanding Contextual and Personality-Related Factors Predicting Student Career Certainty in Work Placement Learning. So you can see this is the DOI. You may want to read the paper, so you can find it online and then read the paper so you can understand how it was actually tested. So we use the structural equation modeling to test this particular study, but because the structural equation, the Amos doesn't have the functions to show the specific indirect effects, so we had to impute the function. We had to make a calculation here, which I would like to show you briefly in Amos. For example, because Amos will give you indirect effect, but it won't give you the specific indirect effect which you are actually interested in, how this mediates the relationship between this and this, so you may not be able to get this particular kind of analysis if you are using Amos. So what do you do? So you can come to define estimate. So for example, if you click here, you can begin to now impute the function, the calculations, and then Amos will be able to run. So you can see here, I can now begin to run a test. For example, we know that mediation is part A multiply B. Okay, that's equal to mediation. So for you to note that, you can see that this is for example, if this is our let me say here, this is I name here independent variable. Okay, here interaction, and here is mediator 1, and here mediator 2, here mediator 3. Okay, so I can come here and label this part. I say part A. Okay, and this particular part here, part B. Okay, so that is how I'm going to label each of them, all these lines, each of them. And if I label here the total effect, if I want to calculate the total effect, I'll simply label this particular point, this particular line here, label it part C. Okay, so if I want to check the indirect effect of this line to this line, I'll simply multiply part A multiplied by part B. And then if I want to check the total effect, I'll simply multiply part A, part B plus C. So we check. So under the extemand, what I will need to do is I will simply open the user defined as new estimand, and then I will impute the function part A, part B, and then when I'm done doing that, then I will save it. Once I save it, I'll call it up here. It will come here and stay, and then I will run the analysis. That is, if I have, remember, these things in these variables here that we have not actually inserted the actual variable from SPSS, because you need to import the data from SPSS before you'll be able to run this particular analysis. And here we can simply name unobserved variables, for example. So you can see the unobserved variables have already, the error terms have already been labeled. Maybe I can label this independent variable, dependent variable 1, so that you can actually understand this very well. 2, 3, 4. So this is exactly, remember, I've actually not saved this document, so that's no point. It's just for the purpose of this study, so I don't need to save that. But if you want to save it, you simply click save, and then it will show you a particular place. You select a particular place where you can save it. So lastly is part analysis. So a lot of people have asked the question, what is the difference between part analysis and structural equation modeling? So here I simply put it in a simple point. I said part analysis enables you to write the names of the variables in square boxes and then link the boxes using arrows. So this will show you the effect of each variable and the other. It is mostly done using structural equation modeling model. So part analysis can be used to refine a causal hypothesis. So you can see, so when you create the part between the independent variables, these, and then you note it, and then you note it. That's almost a method of adopting path analysis. So I'm not really seeing, because even when you are done naming these parts, the boxes, and then drawing the relationship, the directions of the relationships, you may still want to test it using SPSS, or you may still want to test it using MOS in structural equation modeling using MOS. So you can. So what is important here is that you are actually indicating, demonstrating the parts in the analysis. For example, in the MOS file. So, for example, in the MOS file, you can see the parts, this part and then two parts, and so that's basically what I understand path analysis is all about. When you are done with it, you still run the normal structural equation modeling or regression analysis that you want. So this brings me to the end of this particular explanation or tutorial. So I hope you are able to learn the differences between regression analysis, linear, multiple, structural equation modeling, moderated mediation, moderation analysis. So you don't need to be worried about how you can test it, how you can run these analysis. What is most important is that you are able to understand your independent variable and dependent variable. You need to understand what you want to learn, what you want to analyze. How many dependent variables, how many independent variables? Do you have a mediator variable? Do you have a moderator variable? So this will really guide you to know what you want to do and the particular kind of analysis you may want to run. So I thank you for watching. If you like this video, if you like this tutorial, you may want to subscribe to my channel and like this video, give it a thumb up, and then so that when I do the next video, you'll be among the first to get the notification that the video is ready, or that the next tutorial is out. So I thank you so much.